Hello and welcome to the Matchbook Betting Exchange English Greyhound Derby podcast. As always, I am your host, Ian Fortune, for the next half an hour or so. We've only two semi-finals to look forward to. We'll look back at the four quarterfinals briefly. I'm joined, as always, by the master, Paul Lawrence. Before we get into it, Paul, I just want to make a mention, of course, that Matchbook have daily markets on all Greyhound racing and, of course, the anti-post book for the Star Sports TRSA English Greyhound Derby, which is pretty vibrant at present. And certainly if you're fancying one or two of the top of the market, there's a bit of value to be had there. A certain King Memphis, 9-4, best fixed odds. He's clearly 5-2 and better on the exchange. And the likes of the other Kobe is a touch bigger, as is the Ladi Da. So plenty of value there. Make sure to check out the daily markets and Matchbook, especially on the night in question. The last 2 to 3 minutes is where you will really find the value on the exchanges, especially if a dog's running the 10 or 12 to 1 chance. Easy get 14, 16 to 1. I am joined by a man who has been hunting value for the last number of weeks. Will continue to do so. And thankfully, he has been pretty much on tune. PL, the English Greyhound Derby. We're down to the last 6. Just one final hurdle to get to the biggest night of the year in terms of UK Greyhound racing, certainly. £175,000 on the line, and we have a clear favourite once again. King Memphis, he just seems to be doing everything right. Yes, he's been getting some kind draws, but I'll tell you what, he's been making light work of his tasks.
Yeah, he's been really impressive, Ian. I think we both said, can he do it for 6 rounds? But he hasn't. To be fair, he's not put a foot wrong, and he is. We are deep in the comp now with the last 12 and the semi-finals, and he has been handed a bit of a tricky draw. But you're right. If we're going back the ways and looking at him, he's showing early pace, good middle, and he's staying really well. And that's the key to him. He's just got the lot really, and fair play. He just looks the real deal, doesn't he? He just looks real deal.
Whatever but 6 rounds at the moment, he looks like he goes 16 rounds. Like an old style boxer, like a Jack Dempsey or something. He could go all day and all night. He's just doing everything right. Jess, you highlighted the fact that he's a slightly tricky draw in the semi-finals, but if he comes away like he has been doing, PL, you'd imagine he'll turn the prominent pitch. He's not a dog that has to be on the bunny.
No.
Those around him, of the ones in the contest, the only two that can potentially lead him are probably Kobe and Sid, the other Kobe and Churchfield Sid. And even then, you'd imagine, certainly the way they're running, that King Memphis would probably have the pace of them down the back straight and home.
Really, Droopy's Pivotal is the key to his race, really. Because he'd definitely be shifting off. And I must admit, I question why they took the middle off him in the rails, and because I think he's all right in 4 or even 5, I really do. But he definitely moves off from 3. He moves off from 4 actually at the start initially. So he's just going to give King Memphis something to think about. But I think because of his class, King Memphis, I think, and the fact that, as I said to you, he's really staying well. I've been doing clockings and I even think, listen, everyone keeps saying, I'll take third now. And you would, in the semi-final of a derby, you would. It'd be great for him to go through the English Derby unbeaten, don't get me wrong. But they want to be there in the final. And they probably could end up with a kind of draw in the final as well, if you get what I mean. So, but you're right. The early birds are Kobe and Churchfield Sid. And as I say, I think Pivotal has got a bit of early himself. But maybe all 3 of them, especially Kobe and Churchfield Sid, are a little bit vulnerable in the closing stages. They're not flying from the third bend to home, but they have got devastating early. Well, I think actually I was more impressed probably with Sid's early pace than Kobe's. I was a little bit disappointed.
I thought Kobe was quite flat the other evening.
Yeah.
I certainly was expecting to lead around the corner more comfortably than he did, and down the back straight. To be honest, halfway down the back straight, there was only going to be one winner, and it wasn't the other Kobe. Ballymac Slick was simply too close, and as it panned out, he came home to win. But then you see the 29-12, and you go, like, Kobe's doing 28.77 the previous week. He's gone back. What's he gone back? 45 spots. It's a long way to go back in a week. Now, we have seen this from him before. The quarterfinals of the Irish Derby, he flew. The semi-finals, he won again. But he was all out in his feet up the home straight and does sort of 30 or 40 spots slower. And then again in the final, steps up again to do the fastest Derby winner of all time. So I won't be certainly dismissing him. But
No.
I think it's safe to say, just given the makeup of the race, if he doesn't lead, let's say, a Churchfield Sid or King Memphis, all of a sudden he has Ballymac Gizmo and Ballymac Slick. Droopy's Pivot will be thereabouts on the scene. He's going to be under severe pressure. So for me, it's the other Colby, either it's lead or bust. And it could be very similar with Churchfield Sid.
We definitely, and we said this thing we earlier on about you can do a lot of place laying and stuff like that, especially with greyhounds that are vulnerable in the closing stages. But one thing I will say, Ian, and you asked me about what the weather was like last week, and I said there was a lot of rain. It was rain and sun, and it was like all 4 seasons in one day.
Yeah.
And you said, "Oh, that'd be good because of the watering and all that sort of thing." But they actually did water before, and it absolutely chucked it down on the day on a number of occasions. They watered as well before, and I'm not saying they're wrong for doing it. I'm just saying this is what happened. And then they watered, I think it might have been even after race 2 or 3. I think that ground was holding.
Potentially heavier than it has been, shall we say.
I think so, because you're right about the other Kobe. He was a dog that had come from the Irish Derby in September last year. He'd moved to Graham. I think he literally did he have a trial, and he had a trial stakes, and he looked out on his feet in the first round of the Derby, and then second round and third round, he looked like he was staying better. And he's got to the quarterfinals, and you're right. You knew out the second bend he was going to get beat. You knew where Slick had turned. He actually didn't fly to the corner, in my opinion. He just broke right. And you kept saying, "Oh yeah, he can break better than that. He can break better than that." He broke all right, but he actually got done for a little bit of towing into the turn. Was it Droopy's Donut on his outside? It was.
Yeah, Droopy's Donut went up fast on the outside. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. We know Droopy's Donut is very, very fast, and he's very talented. I saw him at the start of his career in Kilkenny. We've seen what he can do in Romford. Now, he's been a bit hit and miss in Toaster, but when he does hit it, he can fly to an opening corner. But as an Irish Derby champion, from the start he made, you would have expected Colby to be in front of him by the corner.
I think so. But what he's doing is he's absolutely running Toaster to die for. That's the thing with the other Kobe. He's slinging himself around the first 2 bends.
He's running the first 2 bends like a Scalextrics. Like he's on rails. Yeah.
He is. Yeah.
Let's take a look at the anti-post market. Obviously, we've mentioned there that King Memphis is, without question, the deserving favourite. 9-4 generally. In fact, 9-4 is the best you'll get fixed odds, but 5-2 in Matchbook. I think that 5-2 is perfectly fair. Barry walks out and Pivotal completely takes his ground, and then all of a sudden finds more traffic. I just think he's going to be in the final, and you're literally betting 5-2 about a good draw. Like if he gets a good draw, let's say he's drawn 1, 2, or 3 in the final, and Barry has something on his inside that's going to be diving right, but at this stage it doesn't look like that's going to be happening. This style could be even money, 11-10, 5-4 in the final. That 5-2, it's not too short. It's not too shabby. Yes, it's pretty competitive, and we know how many talented greyhounds are around them. But 5-2 about it, when you consider the dogs that are closest to him, the Laddie Da probably can't match him into the corner. The other Colby, we've spoken about him, and just the 1 or 2 little concerns about last week. Boyle Sports Bob certainly can't match him into the corner. Now, I'd say he's certainly the one greyhound that can match him from the second bend, but he's got to be at the second bend alongside him. That's the issue there. So if you actually take it into context and go, he's 9-4. God, is that a bit short in a competition of this quality? It probably isn't. The 5-2 certainly isn't, as far as I'm concerned. Now, would I be backing him at that? Do you know what? Just given the fact that I have the Laddie Da, Boyle Sports Bob, and the Colby backed, it mightn't be the worst thing for me to have a few quid on the 5-2. Behind them, we have, you're talking sort of around the 12-1 mark, Ballymac Slick. This is Ballymac Slick, who had 12 starts in Ireland without a win, and then came to Toaster. He's now, after winning 3 of his last 4, he absolutely seems to love the place. It's like he hits a switch when he hits that third bend. He absolutely powers home. I saw this dog running over 750 yards, believe it or not. It didn't quite get home in Sheldon Park, but he was very young at the time. Be interesting to see what the future holds for him. After him, you've Gay Time Nemo, defending champion. We'll get into him in a moment, but I don't know how he qualified. I really haven't a clue how he qualified. How he knocked Crafty Chauveau out is beyond me, because I would have said she'd be the type that'd be downing tools when she's off the pace, and she wasn't. She wasn't stopping. But this fellow absolutely rocketed from the final bend to pick her up on the line. He's still there. He did a 4:22. You'd imagine that's the last time he'll do a 4:22 in the competition. Now he'll need to be doing his sub 4 seconds or just above it. To get himself in the nice position. But given the fact there's not an awful lot of early speed in that contest, that 16-1 to me probably seems like a bit of an outlier. After him, we have, Churchfield Sid is roughly 16-1. The problem with the Churchfield Sid is, as I said, if he doesn't lead, I think he'll struggle in this contest, given the fact that it's going to be the other Kobe or King Memphis leading him if he doesn't lead. And then all of a sudden you have a Gizmo and a Ballymac Slick in behind him. Even the Drubby's Pivotal, who is just doing it everywhere. He's a really bright prospect, Maxi and Locke's charge. You'd love to have a leg in this fellow. And then we're going down to the complete outsiders. Then you have the likes of Gizmo at 40-1. He's just not quite doing it right. He needs to sharpen up, no question about it. YI Man, who we know is we know what he is. He's just a really strong, honest greyhound. The same for Edwards, who's running quite well. Cost Tokyo is across the board 50-1. Absolutely no there's no deviation in his price. Just everyone thinks he's a 50-1 chance, but he is the type of dog that could qualify. 50-1, like he could get to finally be 50-1 again. So there's no point in me saying to you go back him each way now, unless you want to back 1, 2, 3 instead of 1, 2. But it's finally poised. But I think the market has probably got the right shape. PL, what's your view?
My view is I actually tried last week to back King Memphis at 4-1. You couldn't actually get 4-1 on the Matchbook Exchange. You couldn't. And I tried to back him and I failed miserably. I've got a pittance on him because I hadn't got him in the book at all.
Yeah.
And I was the same as you. I just think this lad's going to get to the final and he ain't going to be 4-1. I think I did mention it last week. He won't be 4-1 in the final. And you're saying, he could easily be 5-4 when he gets there and gets a reasonable draw.
If he gets the right draw, on one or two of his main rivals, he could potentially be an odds-on favourite.
Yeah, because I happen to think here he could get a little touch, he could get a little knock, and he could still qualify.
Yeah,
and that's the difference. Because as I said to you, he is coming home really well. He's coming home really well, and a lot of these, it's quite telling. I put some clocks up last week actually. I'll put some up again, probably to go underneath this podcast actually, because they're really interesting and. Maybe again, you have to analyse them in the right way. As I said to you, I think there's a lot of it was quite holding. I think there were a lot of dogs that didn't come home at all last week, and I think that was the ground.
Yeah.
But if you look at the makeup of some of these, these races, even with Churchfield Sid, I've always said about Churchfield Sid, Ian, he wants to be in 6 to start. Don't get me wrong. But he's not diving across, but he is edging across, and his instinct is to start coming across. And Ballymac Slick's first instinct at the start is always to turn right. He'll be going sort of 5 3/4, 5.5, 5 3/4. I'm not saying he wants to widen him because I think most of where he runs is the middle of the track, so I get that. But I'm just saying about traits of a dog. Probably pivotal's the same. He just moves off start. So that a lot of in the semi-finals, the buzz of the crowd, and there'll be a big crowd. Are the dogs they need to be on their Sunday best behaviour at the start to get them into the position that they need to be in these semi-finals, just to get to the final.
Of the bigger price ones, like I mentioned there, Gate Time Nemo, I just thought that 16-1 was perfectly fair about a greyhound who's been there, done that. You can scrub the 422. He's not going to do that again. If he starts, just given the fact, like, he could easily lead up to Laddie Da, Edwards, YI Man, Cost Tokyo, Boyle Sports Bob. If he goes around in front, 16-1, defending champion in the final, no surprise me with a kind draw if he was 9-2, 5-1 on the night. You'd suspect that something like, a Deladdy Da or Kobe, on top of King Memphis will also be there. I can't see how it'd be any shorter than 9-2, 5-1. It could be 6 or 8-1 in the night. But I think the 16-1 is a touch insulting for a dog who, yes, he's beaten 7 1/4. But Jesus, he ran some race.
He did, and the reason he did the 422 was because at the start, and I said to you, I keep watching these dogs, and they don't always do it. It's all me saying this is what they generally do. Crafty Chavu, I thought the first thing she'd do, she'd step to the right, she'd just edge off slightly. The first thing she did, she pitched down to the left, and she cannoned into Gaytime Nemo. That's why he did the 422, and then your man's dog, Groucho's Duke, came right across, squeezed up 4, squeezed up 3, squeezed up 2, and Superfast scores move up, and that's why they all came together. And Churchfield Sig got that blessed run up on the outside. Now, don't get me wrong, he did it with some nice early pace, and if he does it again, he's going to be a dog to reel in. He is going to be a dog to reel in. But Gaytime Nemo picked himself up off the floor, and that he got jostled at the first bend as well, and coming out the second bend. And he absolutely flew. You're right. He absolutely flew. And that is just the mark of a class greyhound. And he is a class greyhound. He won the Derby last year. Again, another dog that loves Toaster. But he hasn't really...
I would say Gaytime Nemo. Like, I was opposing him in the open round of an Irish Derby, just given the fact that he had a lot of racing, and he's never produced his best at Shelburne Park. To be honest, his best form has almost exclusively come at Toaster. It just seems to be a dog that comes alive at the place.
I think I'm right in saying Deladidar and Gaytime Nemo met in Shelburne, and Gaytime Nemo never got anywhere near Deladidar. Did, and yeah. I know that's what you're kind of basing your bets on, but it is Toaster, and he loves Toaster, and he has got that 406 in that. I think it was the second round. He went wallop from 1, and he looked awesome. I said to you in the first round, he got a little knock and he looked all unbalanced, like he'd never been around the place.
Yeah.
And then the next week, he absolutely flew. And then things have just not kind of gone his way for him to. But he's still there and he's still qualified. So you're right, Ian. He's a dangerous dog to dismiss. You cannot easily line a dog like Gaytime Nemo.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to mention in the anti-post market before we look more in depth at the 2 semis?
Yeah, I do, because I actually think me and you, we've both backed Ball Sports Bob, and I still think it was 5.9 now. I happen to think that's big, because I think he will be in the final,
and potentially as the sole wide seed if Churchfield Sid doesn't get clear early. Ballymac Slick is not a guaranteed qualifier. He could be the sole wide seed amongst 5 inside seeds. I suppose that's where the value lies. He has looked a touch sharper. His pace from the second bend is, not in doubt. Again, I'm not expecting to see him lead around the corner in the final or anything like it. But again, in terms of a value option, he's there.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And again, I just think he'll be in the final. That's what I'm trying to say to you. I just think he will be in the final. He's got a makeup to die for. Cost Tokyo is going to be moving right the way across. And it was interesting because I listened to Susan Hennessy, and she said in the third round, when we said, you said he looked drunk. And apparently he charged the traps and banged his head. And that's
okay.
That makes sense, doesn't it? That
does make sense. Yeah.
You can get that, because he absolutely looked like a champion. He did look like a champion last Saturday. He looked like a champion. And I had kind of thought, why have I backed this? Because I've not backed him each way either. I've just backed him win, which is a stupid thing, really. That was poor from me. But as I said to you, I've had plenty of bets. So I've actually backed a dog each way that probably doesn't warrant betting each way. Although if he gets in the final, I won't be saying that. The other Kobe, a massive price. So, but that's those kind of decisions you make. And I must admit, I was in 2 minds. Do I add in Gaytime Nemo? I think it was 20s with one firm, and then I didn't really know what to do, to be honest with you.
When you look at the Boyle Sports Bob form, he leads it halfway. Yes, there's a small bit of crowding at the third bend. There is actually between the last 2 bends again, probably another 2 or 3 lengths worth, but he wins by 10.5. His power from halfway is immense. I can only imagine his clocks. Certainly on last Saturday night, I would say is very favourable compared to anything else that ran on the night.
It was the best, yeah. It was the best.
By a margin or
By a good margin, mate. Yeah, by a good length or so. Yeah, because Deladi Dar was probably about the best along with Ball Sports Bob, and that was only because Deladi Dar was in that first round when he got kicked round, didn't he? But we know that when he gets to the front. But again, now you've got to do an early run against the class of opposition you're in with, and that's why all these makeups are now crucial. It doesn't matter that actually I've got a clock that says he can do that, because if he doesn't get a clear run, he's not going to do it. So that's the art now, is we got to work out where these dogs are getting the clear runs.
Yeah.
And Ball Sports Bob, in my opinion, will get a clear run. And my point to you is the same as you've made for King Memphis. You're getting the price, and that price now you believe you're going to be in the final. And I just think Ball Sport. I don't like to say it, but I just think he was nailed on to be in the final. I just think
even more so than King Memphis, he's guaranteed a better draw.
Correct. That's 100% right, Ian. Yeah, 100% right.
Let's look at the two semi-finals, PL. The opening semi-final, obviously, obviously the Irishman in me. At this point, it doesn't matter. It's about finding a winner. We were talking about King Memphis, but if you look at the prices for the heats, the bookmakers believe that there's going to be 5 Irish and 1 English in the final. The opening heat, we have the Laddie Da, Boyle Sports Bob disputing favouritism at 6-4. I think the 9-2 Gate Time Nemo is too big. Don't get me wrong. Do I think he's as fast as the Laddie Da and Boyle Sports Bob? No. But I think he could potentially get first run of them. Certainly from the box, if he hits the lids. If he does his 406, I think he'll probably go around in front. The Laddie Da, that 394 is very much an outlier at Toaster. If he produces 394, forget about it. As I said last week, I told you he'd do the track record. He does 29.69. He goes 105 spots slower than he did the previous week. And yet, I feel to myself, he hung in there. And I think most dogs would have been out, but he did the right things to qualify. Like, he's beaten 12.5 lengths, but you can just put a pen through that. We know how fast he is. He's got his draw. Trap 1, he hasn't looked like a Trap 1 runner all too often at Toaster. He's actually been swinging off the second bend, which is something that's new to him. But again, if he out-traps Edwards, he's going to be in a great position. And I think he's going to be very, very hard to keep out of the frame. But in terms of pricing, maybe just Gate Time Nemo makes a bit more sort of appeal at 9-2, but I'd just be happy to see a 1-2-3 here for the Irish. That's my my green tinted glasses. But
they're the top 3 in the market, Ian. So obviously
can you make a case for Edwards? Can you make a realistic case for Edwards? Why Iman or Cost Tokyo? Edwards, it's simple. He has to lead the Laddie Dad. If he does, he gives himself a chance.
Yeah, he's got to lead. And this is the thing now. I keep saying to you, Deladi Dar has actually looked quite at home with a middle draw at Toaster. And yet, so I went back and looked when he last ran in Ireland. I think it was in Shelburne. It was probably in around the Derby. In Trap 1, he stayed as straight can be from Trap 1, by the way. He might just step to the right coming out the boxes a little bit, but not. I don't think anything, because I think Edwards will stay straight. Edwards is one of those dogs that, it 1, 2, or 3 will just stay straight. I think Gate Time Nemo will be fairly straight. Why I'm on a ledge in. Cost Tokyo will definitely be going in, and Ball Sports Bob, he'll be happy to be there. He'll have all in Northampton to do whatever he wants to do. So yeah, Edwards has got to lead to have any kind of chance in this race. Really, he's not going to be thundering him. Don't get me wrong. He's a tough nut, and he's been doing really well to qualify. And again, Patrick Janssen knows how to train a Derby winner at Toaster. So, but I just kind of think he's maybe a 28.90 dog at best. Now that won't worry him if they come third and get the Derby final. That won't,
absolutely not.
But that will be his essentially that will be his task, is to get his Sunday best break and get prominent and hope that there's a bit of a cuddle up in behind.
Yeah, just going back to the Laddie Dada, you mentioned about Trap 1. He's raced from Trap 1 on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 occasions. His record from Trap 1 is 6 wins from 7 starts, a 28.42 in Tralee Young, 28.44 at Shelburne Park. That was only a second look at Shelburne Park. 29.24 for the 550, beating Boyle Sports Bob by 3 lengths. 29.43 from Trap 1, again 550 yards. Clonroos Sydney he beat by 3 lengths in 29.15 at Shelburne Park. It's lightning fast. And then his last win from Trap 1 was in the second round, I'm going to say, of the Juvenile Derby, 27.78 at Shelburne Park, one of the all-time great runs. He picked up Druby's flight line that night. The only night he's been beaten from Trap 1 is a Derby semi-final. And he went out that night, much to my horror. So could be Trap 1 Derby semi-final hoodoo. I hope not. No. I would imagine it'd be very hard to keep out of the frame if he breaks on terms. All he has to do. Boyle Sports Bob, we've made our case there. You know, any of these dogs, you don't want to see them trying to come from behind like a YI Man or a Cost Tokyo. They're going to need to be doing it right at boxes like this. This is no gimme, just given the fact that there's so much strength in the race that a misstart could really cost you your Derby here. In terms of the value, PL, is there anything there that catches the eye?
To win the actual heat, I think, there was. I make them closely matched. 1 and 6 Deladi Dine. It's amazing, really, because it's only that kind of one run where he got knocked about a lot. But you're right, he showed a lot of grit and determination. The one thing is, it's all right saying he runs straight at Shelburne. I've got the same opinion as you in that he just seems to be running off that little bit. And if Edwards is there, it might just give him something to think about. There just might be a bit, if he doesn't clear him at the start, then all of a sudden he's going to be having to negotiate around that first and second bend at Toaster. And that, again, Gaytime Nemo's probably going to be up there, Ian.
Yeah.
YI Man seems to be doing really well because he's not really got early pace, but Mark seems to be able to get him to trap and turn in a pitch. And then he's staying and Cost Tokyo, again, lacking early pace, really, but he'll be, again, running on late. I just think Boyle Sports Bob will, as long as he gets that decent enough break, he'll be able to sail around the outside of any potential squeezing around the first 2 bends. And there could be a bit of squeezing. It's hard to really know what's going to happen, probably between Deladi Dar Edwards and Gaytime Nemo.
Of the pair, let's say at 64, you'd sooner back Boyle Sports Bob, given the fact that he looks likely to get a run around the outside.
Exactly.
I think that's fair enough. I'll probably oppose you with the Laddie Dad in terms of if it was,
and I can understand that.
Yeah. But I just thought the value probably did lie with Gaytime Nemo. But don't get me wrong, if they're going 2-1 the Laddie Dad on the night and Gaytime Nemo's at 4-1, I'll probably end up back at the Laddie Dad with a saver on Gaytime Nemo.
Yeah.
But I can listen. I can see exactly where you're coming from. For me, they're the 3 most likely qualifiers. PL, that's what the market's suggesting. I can make a little case for Cost Tokyo, but again, he's going to need to be doing things right.
Yeah, but he is, and the other thing is, he's highly likely to be behind YI Man because YI Man probably tracked better than him, and then he's got a back run YI Man. That's not easy, is it?
No, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. So you're with me. The 3 likely qualifiers are the 3 big 3, shall we say?
Yeah.
Okay, he too. Obviously King Memphis is even money favourite here. And it's easy to see why you have your reservations as regards Druby's Pivotal just edging off. It may not be enough to keep Memphis out of the frame, but it could be enough to get him beaten. I suppose that's why he's even money and not 4-5, 8-11. The other Kobe, there is that slight question mark after last week's run. Obviously, if the track is back to its flying best, if he hits the lids, does this 28.77, all of a sudden King Memphis has to get around him and doing 28.77 isn't easy, given his racing line as well. It means King Memphis is going to have to be doing close to a 28.60 type run. Now, we know he's capable of doing that. Obviously, he's joint record holder there with 28.58 in his card. Churchfield Sid will have his supporters, and plenty of them. Certainly in the tipping competitions, he'll be like a shining beacon. 7-1. We can nap this fella and hope for the best. Get loose. Plenty will be tipping him up, Churchfield Sid. He needs to absolutely rock it out, do everything right. He's been running well, but his best run through the Derby has been 28.96. That won't win this contest. Of the others, Ballymac Gizmo, he's just not doing enough early. He's showing loads of pace and he sort of runs in pockets. There's loads of gears there. I think he's probably just a Shelburne Park greyhound that wants 575, 600 yards. Ballymac Slick, in contrast, is running very well around Toaster, but his best times are 28.97. Now, that said, I think he's showing a lot more than 28.97 pace, but given his style of running, it's harder for him to do that fast time. And then Droopy's Pivotal, who is a dog who, I'll be honest, I've largely ignored through the Derby. It's getting to the point where you've got to stop ignoring dogs that are running as well as he is. Don't get me wrong, he's flanked by early speed. He's going to need to absolutely step up in his 410, 412, 414. He's going to be needing to do a 403, 404 to really get involved. But Maxine Locke's dogs are absolutely flying. And great credit must go to her.
Yeah, flying. And you could tell, because Emily Wallace went to her kennels, and you could see that Maxine's had got a mojo back, and it's kind of they always say sometimes it kind of goes down the lead as well, don't they? The dogs are they're running so well, to be fair to her and all at Bonville Kennels. But as I say, I'm just a little bit worried about him edging off that little bit. I don't think he stays the strongest, by the way, and essentially I think he's a front runner. But again, he was another one that stuck his head down to qualify behind Churchfield Sid. So it's interesting because he broke okay. Again, there was just that squeezing up on the inside, wasn't there, as I said to you, with Groucho's Duke, and you couldn't really see whether that was just affecting Pivotal's and sort of natural pace, because I think his instinct is to move off, and then all of a sudden he was getting carried in by Groucho's from 5. So it gave Churchfield Sid a great draw, and I happen to think I don't think the draw now is as good with Slick there. Slick he's been really as a competition dog, he's been running really well, as you say, because he's flying through the line. And again, those times coming off the back don't really matter so much. In all truth, they're not as
telling as a 28.96 off the front.
Not, because he's either winning or coming second. So
he's 28.60, 70 pace like this. It's there.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah, and I think Gizmo's running really well. He's probably that little bit of a dog, because he's the railer. He kind of tends to make a few mistakes when he's trying to pass dogs. But again, he's another one that's, because he keeps running through the line, he's qualifying. So it's one of those scenarios. If King Memphis happens to go wallop, and from a midfield draw, he could easily do that. The other Kobe that don't lead and Churchfield Sid don't lead, they're in trouble, in my opinion. So then you're looking at Ballymac Gizmo and Ballymac Slick to be running through the line. So there's all different scenarios in this race, but the one thing that King Memphis has to do.
All of those scenarios circle around King Memphis, whether he goes wallop or whether he gets squeezed early. Even if he gets squeezed early, there's potential for him still to win this contest
or qualify anyway. Yeah,
but it means he does have to get loose of that trouble early enough, because if it's backed up by further traffic on the corner, you need to be Pegasus to recover then. But as you say, he's doing everything right. Worthy favourite, and I think the most likely winner here.
Yeah, and the other thing is as well, even if you watch him out of 1, he probably edge off very, very, very slightly. Down the back straight, he always runs a kind of almost middle to wide line. So I actually don't think 4's going to be a bad box for him, if you get what I mean. Probably in the context of this, it's not brilliant, because as I said to you, I think 3 will edge off. But he'll only ever go in slightly from 4. It's not, as I say, it's not, he needs trap 1, because he doesn't need trap 1. And as I say to you, he's just got that mark of a real classy Derby class greyhound. He's just, and to be fair, I think, again, another one I was said to you about, I think Rab and Liz have got that confidence in him. I think Brendan was interviewed, Brendan Keogh, and he said the same thing. I think he's the real deal, and that
I don't think they've had to have this fellow as wound up as they have in previous years.
No.
You remember the Eden? It was Eden the Kid year. Was Eden the Kid the dog that made the final, and he lay down after the semi-finals in the field. I remember Rab lying beside the dog. I remember turning to my dad going, he's done. That dog's finished. I don't get the impression with King Memphis. As I said, I think he goes 16 rounds. I think he could take them on the following week in a competition hove. I just think he's
Because
absolutely.
there's no
I think
vulnerability about him, Ian, is there?
I just think he loves his racing. I don't
Yeah,
think they have to go to the well with him. I think they can just let him run. I think he's a
yeah,
naturally fit dog. He just seems to have everything right. He's a
he does.
perfect size. He's bred in the purple. He's got early speed. He's got pace down the back straight, and he stays well. And
Yeah,
yes, I've been beating the drum for Ireland for months and months and months. I don't think anyone, and I think it'd be particularly good for the game of the UK if King Memphis came out and won the Derby in the style that he's been racing thus far. It wouldn't help our pocket, PL. Don't get me wrong now. No, and that's the big point here.
no,
The pocket has to be looked after first. But I'll tell
yeah,
you one thing. If the Laddie Daz in 1 and the other Kobe's in 2 and Boyle Sports in 6 in the final and King Memphis somewhere in the middle, 3 or 4, I'll be doing a bit of business. we'll make sure the pocket's okay.
that's it.
But I'll tell you one thing. The Laddie Dan 1, the other Kobe in 2, King Memphis in 3, and Boyle Sports Bob in 6, and you throw in something like a Ballymac Slick or a Cost Tokyo or a Ballymac Gizmo or a Pivotal or I haven't mentioned Gaytime Nemo. Could be an English Derby to absolutely row in behind. We promote the hell out of it. You know, Billy Brennan's been telling us that this weekend is booked out, all the suites. You look at the quality of the undercard we have this week, the competitions that are going on. It's going to be an unbelievable Derby final night, PL. We can only say to people, if you're not booked in already, get your backside in gear.
Yeah, no, it will be a great final. I actually think this Saturday night coming up is a really good. It's a really good card because you've got those. I think it's a brilliant idea to also have, the 3-round competition. So you've actually got the form from last week as well, from last Saturday and Sunday's competitions. So you can get stuck into relative form, and that's, as a punter, is what you want. Even if you've got that little bit of knowledge about greyhound racing, it gives you something to look at. Oh yeah, he ran against him. He ran against her. It's that. There are some really top quality greyhounds on show as well on Saturday, by the way. So whether it can get it, or it should get it better, I guess, on Derby final night. But I do actually think that this semi-final card is a corker.
Yeah, absolute corker. Any value in the 2 semi-finals, PL? Where are we looking for just a little nibble?
No, I thought that Gizmo was massively overpriced at around 25. So I only had him half those odds. So maybe you look at that kind of the place as well, Ian. I just think
Gizmo let me down last week, but Slick didn't. We mentioned Slick for place last market. Like, he's returned 5-1, so he's 6 in the exchange. I didn't get a chance. I was over in Portugal watching on. You can't punt from over there. I would say, given the fact he was 6, he probably would have been about a 278, 280, given his racing style. If it was an early pacer at 6, he'd have been about 3.1, 3.5, or 3.2. But when you have the big finishers in around 6-1 the exchange, they're generally around a 270, 275. That would have been fine enough for me now. So in terms of the value, Ballymac Gizmo, you'd have to have a little nibble at the 25, but you'd be looking at the place market more.
I think so.
And what about the other heat? Boyle Sports Bob is your selection. 6-4. He'll be 7-4 on the night, won't be, with the exchange?
Yeah, and you get some of me then. So
yeah, I can understand that, PL. You got to stick to your guns. Gaytime Nemo at 9-2 is too big. Do I think he'll win the heat? Perhaps not. I still would favour the Laddie Da. I've seen him too often from trap 1, and he is a monster from the red. That's why I'm hoping he gets one in the final. Into the second heat. Again, the place market, Gizmo and Slick appeal to me, given the fact that if Memphis goes boom, Kobe and Sid they're struggling. They are going to struggle. Yeah. Slick, we know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to absolutely hit the third bend and just take off. Gizmo has it everywhere, but he's just not going to the corner like he can. He still looks like a greyhound for me that's learning on the job. He was still lightly raced in Ireland before he came over to Toaster. He's not a dog that's got loose very often, and he's been, even in Shelburne and Enniscorthy, and he's been sort of changing trips and changing tracks, and I just think he's trying to find himself. But the 25-1 is a bit big about a greyhound that I have no doubt he could do a 28-60 around there in the morning on his own. Problem is, he's not in his own. In terms of value, yeah, maybe look at them at the place market, but I find it very hard to oppose King Memphis. I really do. He's looking every week more and more at the finished article. Like, the reason we took him on, or I took him on from the start, was I felt he hadn't been severely tested in the UK. You know, the dogs that he was taking on, the dogs coming from Ireland, are up against 3 and 4 top class greyhounds every night. Whereas Memphis was taking on one challenger most nights, and even then, you look through his card, he was long odds on every night. And yes, he's had a couple of kind draws, but when it's been put up to him, he's produced. And if he continues to produce, he could well be the Star Sports and TRC English Greyhound Derby champion. Best of luck to the 12 sets of connections. They take third spot now, have no doubt. But as punters, we're not looking for the third place finishers. We're looking for winners. And PL has been providing plenty of them through the competition. I'd imagine it's been a joy up in the commentary box, PL. Again, we keep saying it week on week, touch wood. It's gone off without a hitch. It's been a wonderful day.
Brilliant. It's been really, really good. To be fair, you have to say, and I always say it's a great venue, especially when you get that sun and there's like a pink hue in the distance. It is a fantastic venue. It's an unusual venue. Don't get me wrong, but it's been the home of the Derby for a number of years now, and it's just testament for the fact that we had such a big Irish challenge as well, and that makes the English Derby, doesn't it? The Irish Challenge. So we've still got plenty of Irish challenges in there, and I'm expecting to be a fair few in the final. But I do think that King Memphis will be there as well. So.
Yeah, huge congratulations to Kevin Boothby and his team. It's gone wonderfully well, and of course to Kim and to Ben, the sponsors, doing a great job also. Really looking after the punters and whatnot. But here in the Matchbook Betting Exchange, don't forget that last 2 to 3 minutes before the off, PL, that's where the value is. If you are enjoying the content, like and subscribe, and of course you can pick up on plenty of Euros content out there. The boys have been hitting the crossbar; they've gone desperately close, but I tell you what, they really do know their stuff. Obviously, it's Royal Ascot week as well. Plenty of horse racing content there also. So join the boys on Matchbook Insights, or indeed by liking and subscribing here underneath this video. And I promise you, plenty more cracking content to look forward to. You spoke of Toaster and about it being the Derby venue. It really has been the Derby venue. It's been a tremendous place. PL, I always say, punters can get over what happens on the track, and I don't think there's been too much criticism of Toaster this week or this year. I think the track has been running fantastically well. I don't think there's been the dreaded bias as people talk about it. It's not something I subscribe to as much as many, but I'll tell you something, you have to have a venue that can hold a party. Yeah. And, Derby final night should be a celebration of all that is great in greyhound racing, and I think Toaster will certainly provide that yet again, let it be said. I'm looking forward to being there. Booked the flights last night, PL. Okay, get your drinking boots on. We're going to be busy. Okay, that's it though from us on this Matchbook Betting Exchange English Derby podcast. My thanks once again to the master, PL. He continues to churn out the winners and give some cracking advice. That's it from me, Ian Fortune. We'll see you in a week's time as we look forward to the final of the Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby. Can you believe there's less than a minute and a half of racing action remaining in this derby? What a competition it's been and continues to be. We'll see you next time. Good luck and God bless.